And welcome back to another podcast with Mr. Hagan. And on this podcast, we're going to talk about the economic idea that decisions are made on the margin. And in a previous podcast, we talked about how people make decisions by looking at the benefits of their decisions and the costs of making any decision. And we went on to say that what really matters is not so much just the benefits and costs, but the change in the benefits and costs. And another way to think about that word change is to say that people are making decisions on the margin. So what is this idea margin? Well, in economics, margin means additional or one more, which will be clear when we do the example below. Margin means additional or one more. And as we go through this idea, we want to remember that as economists, we believe that these benefits and costs can always be measured in dollars. Okay, dollars are going to be our measuring stick. We're going to measure everything in dollars. So let's imagine that somebody is trying to decide how many Cokes they want to purchase. So they're standing at the vending machine and they're trying to decide, do I want to buy one Coke, two Cokes, three Cokes, or four Cokes? And to make this decision, they're going to look at the benefits and the costs. And really what they're going to look at is the change in the benefits and the costs, or say that another way, is they're going to look at the marginal benefits and marginal costs. So let's try to put some numbers on this. Let's say that we know somehow how much this person values a Coke. So let's say this. Let's say the marginal benefit, that's what the MB stands for here. Let's say the marginal benefit, the additional happiness that this person will get from the first Coke is $3. So if he buys the first Coke and he drinks it, he will get $3 of additional happiness added to his life. That's that idea of one more. Just the first Coke gave him $3 of happiness. So if he buys that Coke and drinks it, he adds $3 of happiness to his life. So then we would say his total benefits, that's the TB, is total benefits. His total benefits from drinking Coke so far, would not be $6, would be $3. Okay? So he got $3 of happiness from the first Coke, and his total happiness so far is $3. Now he's thinking about buying Coke number 2. Now, before we think about buying Coke number 2, we have another important idea in economics that we should mention, and that is the idea of what we call diminishing marginal utility. So I'm going to add that down here. Diminishing marginal utility. Diminishing marginal utility. And another way of saying that, diminishing marginal utility, another way to think about that is it's decreasing additional happiness. Decreasing additional happiness. So what that really means here is that each additional unit of the good, each additional Coke, adds less happiness to your life than the previous unit. Okay, let me say that again. It still adds happiness to your life, but it adds less happiness than the previous unit. Each unit adds less happiness to your life than the previous unit. So what we know about this person who got $3 of happiness from the first Coke is that Coke number 2, if they choose to buy it, will add happiness to their life, but it will add less happiness than the first Coke. The first Coke gave them $3 of happiness. Coke number 2 maybe will give them an additional $2, let's say, of happiness. Okay, that's their marginal benefit of the second Coke is $2. Now, what's the total benefits? Well, Coke number 1 gave them $3 of additional happiness, marginal benefits. Coke number 2 gave them another $2 of marginal benefits or additional happiness, so that their total benefits so far would be $5. How did I get that? $3 of happiness from the first unit, $2 of additional happiness from the second unit gives me total happiness of $5. So we're just adding up the margins in order to get the totals. Okay, let's think about Coke number 3. Coke number 3. So one more Coke, one additional Coke, one more. That's margin. What is the marginal benefit of Coke number 3? Well, I know it's going to be less than 2 because of diminishing marginal utility. Each additional unit adds less happiness to your life than the previous unit. We believe this is true for all goods and services. So let's say for the Coke, if the first one gave me $3 of happiness, the second one added an additional $2 of happiness. Let's say the third one adds an additional $1 of happiness. And so now that would mean the total benefits after 3 Cokes, add up the margins, $3 of happiness from the first one, 2 additional dollars of happiness from the second one, another $1 of happiness from the third one. That's $6 of total benefits so far. And then finally, Coke number 4, and one more additional Coke. Let's say that Coke adds an additional 50 cents of happiness to his life, and that means the total benefits will now be $6.50. So this is a really important concept, this idea of the margin. And maybe one last way to think about this is what it really means is that people get tired of stuff. They get sick of stuff. Each additional Coke adds less happiness to their life than the previous. The first Coke gave them a lot of happiness, the second gave them less happiness, and so on as we go. That's the idea of marginal benefit, and on our next video, we will add to that idea the concept of marginal and total cost. We'll look at the cost side on the next video. We'll talk about that in the next video. Thanks for joining me. This has been Mr. Hagan on another Econ podcast. See you on the next podcast.